Ooh, welcome into the Fantasy Football Forge. We're going to wrap up all of the positions this month here, this Wednesday, with my sleepers and my busts in one video for the quarterbacks, because there are 5 of them in total, 3 sleepers, 2 busts to check out. So, if you are new to this, if you haven't noticed, I have been putting out videos all month, so with my rankings. So you can check out the rankings up at the website if you wish to see the complete rankings, www.TheFantasyFootballForge.com, for each and every position. Or if you'd like, in my rankings videos, I went through them in tiers. You can see my videos, so you can see some explanation as to why I have the guys in the tiers, at least that I have them in. Earlier this week, put out the quarterbacks video, then wide receiver, running back, and tight ends are also available. I will put those links down in the description as well as the fact that there were busts and sleeper videos for each of those. I will be live tomorrow night here on YouTube, so come visit me then. We'll do some drafting. We'll look at news and notes and just hang out and chat if you want to. So I will be available to you then. And also, other news and notes I will cover at the end of this video, just like every other video, same stuff as has been. So if you've seen that portion, or if you're not interested, last couple of minutes of the video, once I get through these 5 players, you know that it's done with. But before we get to the sleepers, I do want to make sure that we are on the same page. The definition of a sleeper is a player who is not being valued properly in the fantasy football community. Now, it is true that most often people are referring to late round draft picks when they talk about sleepers, but I am not necessarily one of those people. Not that won't be the case with maybe some of these players, especially the first one on the list here, number 3 for my quarterback sleepers, but it doesn't have to be, to me, if a guy I think should be first overall and they're going in the 3rd round, to me that's a sleeper because they're going way after they should. A first-round pick compared to a 3rd-round pick, there's a bit of a difference there, especially a first overall pick compared to a 3rd-round pick. So, sleeper is just somebody that the value is off with, and that's how I determine these lists. It's where I have them ranked compared to the ECR, the expert consensus ranking from Fantasy Pros website. So let's get into this. Now you are going to see in just a moment when I find where I get, oh my gosh, there we go. I got 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to ignore the 1 because I changed that ranking and then they got removed from the list. So Daniel Jones just makes this list because I am 3 spots. That's how pretty much in sync I was with the experts on these rankings, but that 3 spots still made the list, but I am 3 spots higher on Daniel Jones, my 24th ranked quarterback than the experts. The expert ranking on him was 27 at the time of preparing for this. So last year was really bad for Daniel Jones. It was also a small sample size for him, and I don't think that he was put in much of a position to succeed. Not that other quarterbacks didn't perform better, but not that they also didn't maybe get, there could have been some reasons for that with how the offense gets called under some of the other guys compared to DJ, but still, in Daniel Jones' chances to play last year, it was pretty bad. So I have a lot less faith on his rebound than I do someone lower on this list, but I'm willing to take a risk on him as his upside is a borderline quarterback / high-end quarterback 2 kind of upside. We've seen that from him before in fantasy, so we know that exists for Daniel Jones with this same head coach on this same team. And I think we've got a better receiving core now just because of Malik Neighbors than they did then. So, it's possible in a 2-quarterback league. 1-quarterback league, forget about it. Is that my Danny DeVito coming out there? All right, that's going to bring us on to my number 2 quarterback on this list, Jaden Daniels, as a sleeper. I have him 6 spots higher than the ECR. The ECR on him was 18th. I assume that this will change throughout the offseason. That's really low for a guy who we think has as close to Lamar Jackson's ability in terms of the amount of yards that they could rack up throughout a season as anybody. And so, yes, I'm concerned about injury and everything for Jaden Daniels, more so than some other quarterbacks that are rushing quarterbacks, more so than Lamar Jackson. But I had Anthony Richardson as high up in my rankings as possible last year due to his rushing upside, and I'm doing the same thing here for Jaden Daniels. That rushing upside is absolutely tantalizing and very important for 4 point per passing touchdown leagues and for 25 yards per 1 point of passing yards types of leagues. Both of those situations combined, especially like the rushing quarterback, is quite more valuable than the passing quarterback is. So I believe, is it 2.5 times maybe more valuable, those rushing yards. So that's going to bring us on. And then the touchdowns, of course, are like 33% more valuable. It's going to bring us on to my number one sleeper, Trevor Lawrence. Well, I also have 6 spots ahead of the ECI. I have him ranked 11th. I believe this is who I was talking about when I said that I had some faith on him to rebound. Trevor Lawrence. Last season, he was the EV quarterback 21. By the way, that means that the expert consensus ranking on him was quarterback 17. And like I said, last year, he performed as the quarterback 21 according to my equalized value rankings, which is just like expert average fantasy points per week, except it takes consistency into account. We'll talk a little bit about that in the announcements. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence ended 3rd in my projections for this year, so quite the difference. And I use historical data for those projections. So, you know, things just didn't quite work out for Trevor Lawrence last year, but the bones of the house for things to work out are definitely still there. So let's look at my list of positives for Trevor Lawrence. I have 6 things here. It's going to be a top 10 pass-heavy offense that he will be on. I don't know if that's talking about last year or this year, but I expect if it was last year, I expect that to be the case even more so maybe this year. They're going to be looking to go... No, I'm talking about this year. So they're going to be looking to go more vertical, which fits Trevor's strengths. They finished 2023 5th in air yards, and that offense really didn't go very vertical. So this year, he could very well be first in that category. Also, last year, 21 touchdowns seemingly every week. One of his receivers was dropping a touchdown. This is what I was talking about where, you know, when I take a lot of the historical data from last year, I don't include touchdowns. And he showed up 3rd in my projections. So there is something that didn't go right last year for him to have finished so drastically different as the quarterback 21. And it was a lot of these just dropped touchdowns, missed opportunities by a very short distance, which I think is a common problem for Trevor Lawrence since he came into the league. But ultimately, last year, he was very unlucky in the touchdown department. I don't expect that to repeat itself. I think that would be an oddity. I think last year's was an oddity in terms of that. He was 7th in expected fantasy points per game for whatever that stat is worth. So once again, that's going to really fall in line with the fact that my projections showed him as coming up with 3rd in my projections based off of, once again, the historical data that got him finished as the quarterback 21 last year. Which just means to say that I'm taking a measure that I don't normally always use to help bolster my argument. Also, tip number 5 here, whatever, positive number 5 here, he offers some rushing upside, which gives you a nice floor for Trevor Lawrence. That is true. And number 6, he had multiple injuries that he played through for much of the 2023 season, still performed like he did, where, you know, it was an oddity that he had such a bad season, but some of the reasons for that too could have been the fact that he was playing through so many darn injuries the entirety of the season. So that's my number 1 sleeper, Trevor Lawrence. Jaden Daniels not too far behind, and in 2 quarterback leagues, don't be too afraid to give Daniel Jones a shot. He might be a solid QB2. And that is going to bring us on to my busts list. So as you can see, I got top 3, but, you know, that's not true. It's a top 2 list here. So number 2 on my top bust list is Justin Herbert. Now, is this in the right order? Yes, this is. All right, so Justin Herbert... Sorry, I have it on my computer ranked 1 and 2, even though it's 2 and 1, because this is the appropriate way. But for every other position, I've been going like backwards. I listed them in the wrong order in terms of how I was going to cover them for you, so I've been having to go from the bottom up, which has been, you know, very odd, being coming from English, left to right, top to bottom. Left to right, bottom to up. That's how I've been going. Let's look at Justin Herbert here. So Justin Herbert, my quarterback 20. I have him 5 spots lower than the ECR. ECR has him as quarterback 15. So I couldn't quite recall when I did my rankings video earlier this week. But yeah, I guess I am lower on Justin Herbert again for the 2nd year in a row. I'm going to be the low guy on Justin Herbert, maybe. with an EV quarterback 18 finished last year. I'm not regretting being low on him last year. I think that there's a higher chance that I'm incorrect this year, actually, which, you know, is a little bit surprising. Then again, last year did have some injuries and everything on that team. So I'm expecting a rush-heavy attack from a team that's in transition. So I'm not excited about the upside compared to those that I have him in the same boat with, which is what pushed him down within that tier more than, you know, maybe based on the name Justin Herbert, we would like to have him. I think that he's ranked as my absolute floor for him, however, and his ceiling would be quarterback 14. So I do understand, you know, the quarterback 15 average ranking that is put on him. I get it. I'm just here to warn you that I don't know that that upside is going to be there. He could be very much in a Jared Goff-esque type of season, I think, would be some of the expectations, another middling season, not because of talent, just because of what this offense wants to do and talent around him and new system, new offense, everything else going on. Could be a slow start too. So there you go. That's just the arguments, I guess, against Justin Herbert, or for why I'm a little bit lower on him, and not going to get too antsy about drafting him. As we bring us on to Caleb Williams, who I am also low on. I have him ranked 17th. I guess the experts have him ranked 13th overall. I know it's a wonderful, wonderful, you know, core that they've built around Caleb Williams there. So let's see here. When it comes to rookies, I need the higher floor and or upside that a lot of rushing yards can provide. Yes. For me to go into essentially quarterback one territory, having him ranked like top 13 there, I'm going to need that rushing upside, which really Caleb Williams doesn't have. It's not that he can't scramble, but he's not a rushing quarterback, if that makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, you should be able to understand the difference between the ability, like a Patrick Mahomes, to get out and scramble when they're improving and get that first down every now and then, compared to the guy who's going out and really threatening the defense down in and down out. So there you go. That's Caleb Williams. It's in an excellent situation, and he's an unknown, which I do like. Just like C.J. Stroud last year and Bryce Young of last year. I'm happy to take a chance over some of the more known entities, but not as high as quarterback 13, once again, for a guy who also doesn't have that Jaden Daniels kind of floor, ceiling, upside that rushing can give you. It's a little bit too rich for my blood on a total unknown. You look at the most recent, most similar prospect to come out in Trevor Lawrence in terms of just the hype surrounding them. And he finished as the quarterback 23 in fantasy in his rookie season. There are factors to consider which work in favor for Caleb Williams over that Jacksonville team that Trevor Lawrence was put on. But I still, once again, quarterback 13 just feels a little bit rich for Caleb Williams this year. Next year, we'll probably be saying something different, but that's going to be over the second half of this season, you know. So maybe you can get him on the waiver wire week 6 or so if he has a disappointing start and somebody drops him, or include him in a trade, something like that, before he is popped off. So that is it for my sleepers, my busts. And all we have left is some announcements. So once again, tomorrow night I will be live here on YouTube. So come hang out, go over any kind of news. I'll look through Reddit for any recent news that is of interest for a little while. We'll also, if anybody wants to join in, I don't know what I'm going to do my drafts on yet. I still have a lot of preparation for that live, but also it's a little bit flexible. If you guys are just sitting there asking questions, you know, be a lot of chatting. And eventually do some sort of draft. But in terms of joining a members-only league, if you want to become a member of the channel, you can join that league, the listeners-only league. 99 cents to join, and when you join, you will get a password to the server for the Fantasy Football Forge on the Discord server. And on there are some channels, some resources for you if you like NFL draft stuff. Plenty of resources from the NFL draft throughout the season. You know, a name gets brought up that's going to get a chance to start. You can go back and you can look at what I thought of that player throughout the draft process, what their strengths, what their weaknesses were, make up your own mind based on the strengths and weaknesses of, hey, does that fit, you know, the role that they're going to be asked to be coming in and filling in? And is that a fantasy, you know, productive role, or is that like something that isn't quite fantasy relevant? So there you go. That's something you could use for in season, but also you can use my equalized value rankings, which I do keep up with throughout the season to help you out along with any of your trades. Or in the off season here, you could use my 2023 equalized value to just help give you a refresher of how well players performed last year in terms of getting prepared for how well they might perform this year. Equalized value, it's consistency based weekly. How well did these guys help you to potentially win your week, over kind of like a wins over replacement kind of deal in a sense. But those are available to you. And if you would like me to make you full PPR or non-PPR standard format rankings, specifically, since I do deal in half PPR normally, if you request that, there are channels dedicated to those rankings. You just hop in there and just say, hey, I want this type of formats rankings, and I'll do that for you. So there you go. That is it. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Peace out.